I was engaged, planning a wedding with the man I loved. But one night, one mistake, and I got pregnant by his brother. From the outside, Emily had the kind of life that made others believe in second chances. At 27, she had rebuilt herself from heartbreaks and broken dreams and now stood at the threshold of something real. Her apartment smelled of sandalwood and coffee, her mornings began with playlists curated by mood, and her nights ended with texts from Jason that always included "Sweet dreams, future wife." Jason was everything she thought didn't exist anymore. Thoughtful, consistent, emotionally present. He didn't flinch at vulnerability, he invited it. He'd hold her hand in public and kiss her shoulder in private. They talked about kids, finances, even what kind of dog they'd get once they moved into their first house. He made love feel like home, warm, safe, earned. Their wedding was 4 months away. Emily had said yes through tears that stained her cheeks and laughter that shook her chest. Jason had proposed under a tree where they'd had their first kiss, and he'd carved their initials into the bark before she even answered. He always knew. That's who he was, a man who planned for love. Then, Liam returned. Liam, Jason's younger brother, was the kind of beautiful that made women forget logic. Sharp jawline, ocean eyes, and a tongue that could talk a nun out of her vows. To Jason, Liam was still his little brother, flawed, impulsive, but redeemable. He's not bad, just lost, Jason would say. To Emily, Liam had always been magnetic in the way dangerous things are. The first time she met him, he winked at her while Jason wasn't looking. She laughed it off. Everyone did. That was Liam. No boundaries, no breaks. At their engagement party, Liam showed up late, wearing a black suit without a tie and a smile that made the room tilt. He hugged Jason hard, then turned to Emily and said, "Still time to change your mind, you know." He was joking, supposedly. Emily stiffened, but Jason just laughed. He always laughed at Liam's chaos. He saw it as part of the package. 2 weeks later, Jason and Emily had their first real fight in months. It started with the guest list. Jason wanted to invite a former flame turned friend. Emily said no. Voices rose, accusations flew. Jason left to get air. Emily stayed there, shaking with fury and wondering why one name could unravel so much. She ended up at a friend's birthday party alone. The music was too loud, the lights too dim. She drank wine too fast and smiled too hard. And Liam was there. Of course he was. He found her leaning against the balcony, watching the city move beneath her. He lit a cigarette and offered her one. She declined. He laughed. "You and Jason fight?" he asked, eyes scanning her face like he already knew the answer. "It's nothing," she replied, but her voice cracked. Liam leaned closer. "You know, you don't have to settle just because someone treats you well." She turned to him. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Just saying. Sometimes comfort looks a lot like a cage." That night, comfort cracked. The kiss happened fast. One moment she was defending Jason, the next she was pressed against the wall, Liam's hands on her hips, mouth tasting like smoke and regret. It was wrong, so obviously, unbearably wrong. She pulled away first, said nothing, just walked away, stumbling slightly in her heels, nausea rising in her throat. The next morning, Jason was already making breakfast. He smiled at her like nothing had shifted in the earth beneath them. "I'm sorry," he said. "I shouldn't have left." Emily nodded, kissed his cheek and sat down. But something inside her had already taken root, and in silence, it had started to grow.
Chapter 2. The Night That Shouldn't Never Happened. Emily told herself it was a mistake, a blip in her otherwise steady world, a secret shame that would dissolve with time. She wouldn't speak of it, wouldn't give it air. That kiss with Liam was nothing. It had to be nothing. But secrets rot in silence, and Emily was rotting from the inside. At first, she overcompensated. She planned the wedding obsessively, menus, floral arrangements, even handwritten notes for each guest. Jason, ever trusting, saw it as excitement. He had no idea she was trying to bury something that kept resurfacing every time Liam entered the room. Because Liam didn't act like it was nothing. At the rehearsal dinner, he sat across from her with that same glint in his eye. He toasted to unexpected surprises, and his gaze lingered. Emily's stomach churned. She avoided being alone with him, but sometimes he'd catch her in the hallway and whisper things like, "I haven't stopped thinking about it." She never responded, not once, but she also never told Jason. Weeks passed, and then came the nausea. At first, she blamed stress, then the late period, then the second. Her denial stretched across long mornings of pacing the apartment, short-circuiting at every mention of children or baby names. Finally, in the sterile glow of a pharmacy bathroom, 2 pink lines appeared. Clear, undeniable. Pregnant. Jason cried when she told him. He picked her up and spun her around, kissed her belly, whispered promises to their unborn child. Emily laughed through tears, and yet, in the pit of her stomach, there was a weight she couldn't lift. She tried to do the math. Last time with Jason, 2 days before the fight. The kiss with Liam, the night of. She couldn't be sure, not completely, but doubt is like a splinter, small but impossible to ignore. So she did something she never imagined herself capable of. While Jason was out, Emily slipped into Liam's room at the family lake house. She found his hairbrush, pulled 3 strands of hair, and hid them in an envelope beneath her mattress. It took her a week to build the courage, but eventually she sent them to a private lab. She told herself it was to rule it out, to prove to herself that Jason was the father, that the universe wouldn't be that cruel. She didn't even tell her best friend. The results came back 2 weeks later. She waited until Jason had gone to work, heart pounding, palms sweating as she opened the email. Probability of paternity, 99.9%. Liam Carter. Her world collapsed in silence. The walls of their apartment suddenly felt too close, the air too thin. She couldn't breathe, couldn't move. Her hands trembled as she closed her laptop. She threw up in the sink minutes later. Liam, the father of her child. A man she kissed once, a man she barely even liked, a man who carried the same blood as the person she was about to marry. She called in sick, turned off her phone, curled up on the bathroom floor, staring at the ceiling, wondering what kind of woman lets this happen. What kind of woman carries her fiancé's brother's child and pretends it's a blessing? By evening, there was a knock on the door. Liam. She didn't want to answer, but something in her, guilt, maybe desperation, made her open it. He walked in casually, like nothing had changed. Then he saw her face. "You know," he said. Not a question. She nodded. He exhaled, rubbed the back of his neck, and sat down on the couch. "You're not gonna tell him." Her jaw tightened. He has a right to know. Liam leaned forward. And what? Destroy him? Destroy this family? For what? One night that meant nothing? Emily blinked. It meant nothing to you, but to me, it cost everything. He was quiet for a moment. "Look, I'm not saying it's right, but it's done. What matters now is what you don't do." She looked at him, and for the first time, truly saw him, a man who never took responsibility, who treated consequences like rumors. And yet, part of her wanted to believe him, because the truth felt too heavy, too cruel. That night, she crawled into bed next to Jason. He wrapped an arm around her and whispered, "I'm so glad it's you." She didn't sleep. Because secrets, once planted, grow. And this one was starting to bloom inside her, kicking, stretching, demanding to be born.
Chapter 3: The Truth That Burns. The baby bump was starting to show. Jason touched it like it was holy. He talked to it every morning, played music through headphones pressed gently to Emily's belly, and whispered things like, "You've already made me a better man." He said it with so much love, so much unfiltered joy, that Emily began to feel like a criminal every time she smiled. She tried to live the lie. At first, she told herself it would fade, that if she loved Jason hard enough, if she built their life with enough intention, maybe the truth would dissolve. Maybe it wouldn't matter. Maybe love would be louder. But the baby kicked, and sometimes she swore it felt like a reminder, a pulse of guilt from the inside out. Jason's family, naturally, was thrilled. His mother, Diane, hosted baby showers and bought onesies embroidered with "Little Carter." Liam, of course, kept his distance. He barely looked Emily in the eye anymore. He'd become an expert at existing around her without acknowledging her. But the silence between them screamed. Emily avoided mirrors, not out of shame, but fear, that she'd look at her own reflection and see something she couldn't lie to anymore. Sometimes in the quietest moments, she would place a hand on her belly and cry, whispering apologies that would never be heard by the one who deserved them. One night, Jason found her on the porch, staring into the dark. "You okay?" he asked, wrapping a blanket around her. She nodded, just thinking. "About?" Emily opened her mouth, the words pressed against her teeth, but they didn't come. "Nothing. Just life." He kissed her forehead and held her in silence. And in that moment, Emily realized something unbearable. He was the only man in the world who would forgive her, and that made it worse. Then, the baby was born. A boy. 8 pounds, full head of dark hair. Jason cried harder than she'd ever seen him, held the baby like he was glass, whispered, "You're my whole world now, little man." Emily wanted to scream. She stared at the child. He was perfect, beautiful, and undeniably Liam's. Same eyes, same jaw, same dimple in the left cheek. Jason didn't notice at first. Love made him blind. But Diane did. 3 weeks in, she asked Emily privately, "Are you sure about the timing?" Emily froze. Of course. But Diane's eyes narrowed. She didn't press. Not then. What came next wasn't a confrontation. It was erosion. Slow, almost imperceptible, until one day, Jason started coming home quieter, holding the baby a little differently, asking subtle questions about dates, movements, memories. Emily knew it was unraveling. And then came the night it all fell apart. She was in the kitchen, the baby asleep in his crib, when she heard Liam's voice outside, low, tense. Jason was home early. She stepped closer to the door and froze. "You need to tell her to leave me alone," he hissed. "She's acting like I'm part of this." Jason's voice was sharp. "What are you talking about?" "She knows. About the kid. About the night." Silence. Then Jason. "What night?" The world stilled. Emily opened the door just as Jason turned toward her. His face was pale, eyes wide. And she knew, in that instant, that the lie was over.
Liam looked at her, jaw clenched. "You didn't tell him." Jason stared between them. "Tell me what?" Emily tried to speak, but her throat closed. She stepped forward, hand trembling. "I'm so sorry." Jason took a step back, like her words were bullets. "Whose baby is this?" She couldn't answer. She didn't have to. Liam didn't stay. He walked away, didn't look back, and Emily was left standing in the middle of their home, her entire body shaking. Jason sat down on the floor. Not crying, not yelling, just silent. I reached for him. "Don't," he said. His voice was hollow. And that silence, that thick, awful silence, said everything. The truth had burned its way through them, and nothing was left untouched.
Chapter 4. The Pain Behind the Silence. Jason didn't speak to her for 3 days. He didn't leave, didn't scream, didn't destroy anything. But the silence was louder than rage. It followed her through the rooms, curled into the corners of their home, sat between them like a ghost. He still fed the baby, still changed diapers, but his movements were mechanical, no warmth, no softness, just duty. Emily watched him from across the room, hoping for something, a flicker of recognition, a sign that what they had wasn't fully dead. But Jason had become a shell, and she couldn't blame him. He slept on the couch, turned away when she entered a room, avoided eye contact like it might burn him. When he did look at her, it was through glass, like she was already gone, like he was trying to forget her shape, her scent, her voice. On the 4th night, he finally said something. "Why didn't you tell me?" She sat at the edge of the couch, hands clasped. "Because I didn't want to lose you." Jason laughed, not with humor, but with disbelief. "You lost me the second you let him touch you." She swallowed. "It was one night, one mistake." "Don't minimize it." His eyes snapped to hers, and for a moment she saw the man she once knew, the one who adored her, trusted her. "You carried his child. You let me believe he was mine." "I didn't let you." "You chose to lie," he said, voice sharp. "Every day, every smile, every time I touched your belly, talked to him through your skin, you let me fall in love with a fantasy." Emily broke. She reached for him, but he recoiled. "I wanted to tell you, I almost did 100 times. "Why didn't you?" "Because I knew you'd never look at me the same." Jason stood, pacing. "I look at him and see him. Liam, every damn time. How do I raise my brother's child? How do I look at him and not see what you two did?" "He's still just a baby," she said, tears streaming. "He didn't ask for any of this." Jason turned his back. "I know, and that's the part that hurts the most. He deserves better than all of us." The next morning, Jason was gone. He left no note, no message, just absence. Emily panicked, called his phone, texted, drove by his office. Nothing. When she called Diane, his mother, she said only, "He's safe. He needs time. Don't push." Emily sat in the nursery that night, rocking the baby, and thought of the life she was supposed to have. The name they'd picked, Elijah. Jason had loved that name, said it sounded strong, noble. Now she whispered it to the ceiling, wondering if it still belonged to the boy in her arms. 2 weeks passed. Then, one afternoon, a package arrived. No return address. Inside was a manila envelope with a letter folded neatly inside. Emily opened it with shaking hands. It was from Jason. Emily, there are no words big enough to hold what I feel. Not rage, not grief. It's deeper than that. It's like the floor beneath my life gave out, and now I'm free falling. I don't hate you. I wish I did. It would make this easier. But I loved you too much to turn that off overnight. That's the problem. I still love the version of you I believed in. I don't know if I'll ever come back. I need to rebuild from ashes. I need to learn how to breathe again without choking on what we had. Give him a good life. Don't make him carry our sins. I forgive you, but I can't be part of this. Jason. Emily dropped the letter and sobbed until her chest ached. The next morning, she packed her things, moved out of the apartment they once called home, found a small place 2 cities away, somewhere quiet, somewhere anonymous. Liam reached out once. She didn't answer. The silence between her and Jason became permanent. Not cruel, just final. In time, the ache dulled. She went back to work, raised Elijah with care and gentleness, but something in her remained shattered, because some mistakes don't ruin you all at once. They erode you slowly, until the person in the mirror is someone you barely recognize.
Chapter 5. Emotional Justice. 5 years passed. The air in Emily's small apartment always smelled like cinnamon and crayons. Her mornings began with cereal spills and sleepy kisses from Elijah, now a boy with Jason's patience and Liam's eyes. She never told him who his father was, not because she wanted to lie, but because she wanted him to grow up with a story built from love, not shame. She learned to live with silence. It no longer haunted her. It became a kind of companion, the price she paid to start over. She worked freelance from home, took Elijah to the park every afternoon, taught him kindness and the beauty of quiet things. Their life was small, but steady. She never heard from Liam again. Jason remained a ghost. No sightings, no word. Not from Diane, not from mutual friends. It was like he had erased the life they once shared. And maybe he had. Maybe that was the only way he could survive it. Until one spring morning, everything shifted. Emily was at the farmer's market, holding Elijah's hand, helping him pick apples, when she saw him, Jason, standing by a stand of tomatoes, holding a canvas bag, looking older, beard slightly longer, eyes softer, lines of time and distance drawn across his face. He hadn't seen her yet, and for a second she considered walking away. But Elijah tugged her arm. "Mommy, I want that one." Jason turned at the sound of her voice. Their eyes met. The world didn't stop. It didn't go quiet, but something inside Emily went still. Jason took a step toward her. "Emily?" he said, voice low, unsure. She nodded. "Hi." He looked at Elijah, then back at her. "Is that?" "Yes." Jason swallowed. "He's beautiful." "He is." Silence fell, heavy but not hostile. "Can I?" he asked, nodding toward the boy. She hesitated, then called gently, "Eli? This is Jason." Eli looked up. "Hi." Jason knelt. "Hey, buddy. I'm An old friend of your mom's. Eli smiled, then went back to his apple. Emily and Jason stood quietly for a while. "I didn't think I'd ever see you again," she said. "I didn't think I could. But time, it has a way of softening things." Emily looked down. "He's never known about Liam." I figured. Another pause. "I hated you. For a long time. Not for the betrayal, but for the way it hollowed me. For what it made me doubt about myself. I know," she whispered. "But one day, I woke up and realized I couldn't stay angry forever. It was eating parts of me that didn't deserve to die." Emily's eyes filled. "I'm sorry. Truly." "I still am." Jason looked at her. "You don't have to say it again. I believe you." They stood there. Two people who once built a future together. Now, just strangers with shared history. "I'm happy you're okay," he said. "I wasn't. But I am now. Took a long time." Jason nodded. "Same." Eli ran back to her, arms full of apples. She caught his smile and, for a moment, it caught her breath. So much of Jason in that joy. Jason looked at them both. "I'm not asking for anything, but I'm glad I saw him. Saw you. Closure. I didn't realize I needed it." "Me too." They parted ways with no promises. No dramatic goodbye. Just a nod, a silent thank you for surviving. That night, Emily sat by Elijah's bed after he fell asleep. The light was soft, the air still. She held Jason's letter again, the one she'd kept hidden all these years, and whispered, "He's good. You'd be proud." And for the first time, the forgiveness she had begged for finally settled into her chest. Not because Jason had given it, but because she had started to forgive herself. Because sometimes emotional justice isn't revenge or reunion. Sometimes it's living with the consequences and still choosing to live well.
There are betrayals that scream, that tear the world in two. Others, like this, slip quietly into the foundation of a life until it all crumbles. Emily made a choice that destroyed the person she loved most, and still, she woke up the next day, and the next. She faced the guilt, the shame, the questions no one else could answer, not for redemption, but because her son deserved a mother who didn't flinch from truth. Jason lost everything he believed in, but he didn't become bitter. He became quieter, wiser. He let time do what words never could, teach him to live without hate. They didn't end up together, and that was the point. This wasn't a story about fixing the past. It was about surviving it. And in the quiet space between grief and healing, they each found something that mattered more than blame: peace. Because sometimes the most powerful form of forgiveness is moving on. If this story moved you, if it made you feel, reflect, or remember, don't leave in silence. Share your thoughts in the comments. Tell us, have you ever had to forgive the unforgivable? And if you want more stories like this, raw, real, and unforgettable, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. On Betrayal and Forgiveness, every week we dive into the darkest corners of the human heart, and sometimes
we find the light.